Hi, this is Trepacer. Uh, I went away to see my brother this morning, so I didn't really get back in time to, watch a good movie. Usually I do a review on Saturday of a movie that I've seen. And, but I wanted to, It's Halloween, I wanted to do a sort of horror theme, since it's Halloween pretty soon, coming up in probably a week from today, actually. I wanted to do a film that I actually kind of revisit that film that I actually really enjoyed as a kid. It was a movie that I saw as a kid and was fascinated with it, and I waited until this movie came on every time because I knew it would come on at a certain time on Sundays just before the baseball games. Growing up on Channel 11, in New York on Channel 11, they would play these movies. And when this particular movie came in rotation, I'd always be up for this movie. This movie really it fascinated me, it terrified me, and it made me laugh. And it was just a great movie. So I'm going to play you the intro to that movie and then talk about it a little bit more, if this will cooperate with me. Let's see. Let's see. Give it a minute. Let's see. Because I love this intro. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Anyway, yeah, of course, by that intro, you see, the movie I'm talking about, of course, is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. I absolutely love this movie. I talked about this movie tons of times on my channel, and what I loved about this movie, first of all, it's a perfect blend of horror and comedy. And like I mentioned before, they used to show these Abbott Costello movies on Channel 11, New York, growing up on Sundays at 11 o'clock, 11 to 1 before the baseball games would come on. And I absolutely loved Abbott and Costello. I just loved their comedy, and I loved horror separate from that. And then when I found out that they actually made a movie together, that really got me interested in watching it. And basically, in this movie, Abbott and Costello play Chick Young, played by Bud Abbott, and Lou Costello plays Wilbur Gray. And they're baggage handlers in Florida, and they're about to receive two unusual items that's slated for McDougal's House of Horrors. Okay, and when they get they get a phone call from a gentleman, a certain Lawrence Talbot, calls them, basically telling them to, under no circumstances are they to open up these crates, deliver these crates. Okay, under no circumstances. Okay, and of course, they're in the midst of this conversation. uh, Lawrence Talbot, aka Larry the Wolfman, transforms, and that's where you get your very first. And the good thing about this movie, I think, which made this movie what it was, is that the monsters are not really treated. The monsters are treated seriously. They're not used to, even though I guess in a certain way, maybe more of the Wolfman than Dracula and Frankenstein and the Frankenstein monsters. They're treated totally serious, and even the Wolfman, for the most part, is treated, you know, totally serious, you know, just, even, I mean, there's a moment in the movie, and like I said, this review is going to have spoilers in it, so just I'm going to put that in the title so everybody will know. But for the most part, the monsters are treated, with respect and not, not too much humor. Even though there's humor in this movie, from Abbott and Costello, how could there not be? But the monsters themselves are treated with such, respect and dignity that you really enjoy watching them on screen. And in this movie, Lawrence Talbot, aka Larry the Wolfman, is the actually his character is a hero. He's trying to basically stop Dracula from reviving the Frankenstein monster, and because the grand plan of Dracula is to revive the Frankenstein monster and put a brain in his head that's more pliable, more easy to command, not someone that's has a fiendish mind. I guess as Bela Lugosi says in this movie, a fiendish intellect to revive its. I think what he said. He says the creature must not have a will of its own to oppose its master, which is great. And this marked the return of Bela Lugosi as Count Dracula. He, of course, did it in the early movies, and then he got replaced, of course, by, I think, John Carradine played Dracula in 2 movies, House of Dracula and House of Frankenstein. But this was the return of Bela Lugosi as Count Dracula, and his performance was absolutely amazing, and just, he never lost a step. And of course, you got Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. Of course, he played the part in several movies, and of course, he's the only Wolfman really. And of course, he could play his part like that. And of course, then you have Glenn Strange as the Frankenstein monster. And outside of Boris Karloff, to me, Glenn Strange, looked the most like the creature, and actually looked the best in the makeup, and actually I think did a great job as the creature. And I think mostly that's because he was coached actually in House of Frankenstein, I believe, by not Bela Lugosi, by Boris Karloff, who actually played a mad scientist in that movie. But the basic plot again of this movie is Dracula's trying to revive the Frankenstein monster, and he needs a brain. And of course, who happens to fall into that? Who gets chosen? Who has a pliable brain? Of course, that would be Wilbur Gray, played by Lou Costello. He's dating a gorgeous scientist named Sandra, of course, and of course, but Abby can't understand why this gorgeous creature is dating, Costello. But of course, her reasons to date him are just because basically she wants his brain. Okay, and like I said, the movie is basically them, the creatures being revived and gone missing. The Frankenstein monster and Dracula gone missing, and of course McDougal blames our heroes for the theft, and basically they have to try to find the exhibits to clear their names. And of course, into that mix comes Lon Chaney Jr., Lawrence Talbot, and he tries to help them. Of course, at first, they don't really believe him because he doesn't explain quite who he is, and then when he does explain, then they do believe it. And see, that's what I think was one of the great strengths of this movie. Of course, the horror aspects they take totally serious, but the comedy parts are just excellent. And there's a lot of great sequences in this movie, specifically when they're being chased by the creature, and the scene towards the end of the movie, which is just absolutely a fantastic sequence, where basically Lou Costello has been captured and chained up, and they're getting ready to perform the operation to remove his brain and put it in the creature. And of course, onto the scene comes, Lawrence Talbot and Bud Abbott, and of course, there's totally chaos. And of course, at the same time, Lou Costello is being rescued. There's a full moon, and of course, the Wolfman makes an appearance, of course, and then he has his little battle with Dracula, and then at the same time, the creature gets revived and goes after Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. And the great part one of the parts that I read about in the behind the scenes, that you can see it. There was a sequence where, in this sequence, the creature was supposed to pick up, the female scientist and throw her through the skyline, but apparently, the stunt woman didn't. She hit it and she bounced back and she basically fell on top of Glenn. Anyway, sorry, I got cut off there. Anyway, there's what I was saying is that Glenn Strange had got he picked up the stunt woman and threw her through the supposed to throw her through the plastic window, but she bounced back against it and she fell on him and he sprained his ankle, and he couldn't film for a few days. And so Lon Chaney, being the trooper that he is, he actually volunteered and put on the the Frankenstein the monster's makeup, and you can actually tell it's a different actor if you watch it close up. As a kid, I couldn't tell, but as an adult, looking at it, of course you can tell because there's a sequence where the creature gets up and he pulls off the electrodes, and then you see him when he like moves the the hospital bed out of the way. he pushes to the side. You can't really. They don't show you. They show it to you from a distance, so you can't really see Glenn, and you can tell it's a different actor. It's basically Lon Chaney Jr. in the Frankenstein in the makeup. He just tosses it to the side, and then you see him coming after Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, and then you know it's a different it's a different actor doing that. But then you have the great sequence, a great fight between the Frankenstein, between Dracula and the Wolfman, them battling from room to room, and of course Abbott and Costello being chased by the Frankenstein monster. And I remember always as a kid watching that. That it always scared me. There was one part where Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, they run into a room and then they like kind of bolt the door, against the creature. Then all of a sudden, you hear a glass break and you see Dracula and the Wolfman, battling over a chair. They come in the room, and of course Abbott and Costello run out to get away from that. Sequence always scared me as a kid, just because I always thought, oh, don't let Abbott and Costello get, I didn't want them to get hurt, as a kid, kid logic. So don't let them get killed, run away with that. And of course they ran away, and there was this great, this great physical comedy, with them running away from the Frankenstein monster, and them leaning up against the door, and then the creature punching through the door, and then Lou playing Dracula, telling the creature back, and then he said, "He thinks I'm Dracula." And then he throws the cloth on top, and the creature basically chases after them. And of course, you see the great one of the great endings where Dracula throws a vase at the creature, and then Wolfman, and then he changes to a bat to fly away, and the Wolfman jumps and grabs him, and they both fall into the water where they seemingly die. And then of course you have the creature chasing after Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, and then the creature winds up going into fire, even though creature's supposed to be afraid of fire, but he actually marches into fire. And then of course that ends, and then the great ending with Vincent Price playing the Invisible Man, and Abbott and Costello jumping in the water and swimming away in absolute terror. And just one of the great horror comedy movies, and just an absolute favorite of mine. And I read also that there's a book that I want to get from Amazon.com that actually picks up where this movie ends. Actually, I think it's called The Return of the Wolfman, where the monsters are frozen and revived like 50 years into the future. I think that's what it's about. It's called, I think, The Return of the Wolfman. So actually a novel based on the events in this movie, believe it or not. Because I read about it, and I think it was sold out at the time on Amazon.com, but I want to look again and see if it's there, and I want to read it, because I read the premise of it, and it's supposed to be a really good premise of a story with the creatures and stuff. And definitely, I think it's called The Return of the Wolfman. Okay. Anyway, so that's my, I guess, look back at Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, my remembrance of it, and my absolute love of this film, and I absolutely would give this movie a 9 out of 10 because I think it excels on every level to me, with the comedy, the horror aspects, which is taken seriously, the makeup, it looks fantastic. Abbott and Costello are in rare form with the comedy, and their timing just fantastic as usual. And of course you get Bela Lugosi returning as the Frankenstein as Count Dracula. You get Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman, and of course Glenn Strange as the creature. I think it's just a perfect blend of comedies and horror, and it's just an all-time favorite, one of my all-time favorite movies of all time. Anyway, let me know what you think of this movie and what your remembrance of it is. Feel free to leave comments down below. And this is Trepacer saying so long and take care.